This time, Lesson 20, Week 20 of 52. We're going to cover 2 Samuel 13 through 21 and this long list of Psalms that are appropriate to the time period in which we're currently in our Through the Bible study in 1 year. Last time we saw David sin with Bathsheba. This time David prays for forgiveness. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness. According to the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgression. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. Psalms 51, 1 and 2. Having acknowledged his sin, David throws himself on the mercy of God and asks for forgiveness, but lets the reader know that our sin nature has always been with us. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Psalms 51:5. Purge me with hyssop, a water-holding plant, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness. Hide thy face from my sins, and blot out all mine iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Psalms 51, 7 through 11. After the sins of idolatry and conspiracy to commit murder, David's life was joyless, his heart broken, and he cried out to God to restore him. Above all, he prayed that God would not remove the Holy Spirit from him. Why? He knew that devastation came upon Saul when God withdrew the Holy Spirit from him. David knew this could not be fixed by bringing animal sacrifices, but the sacrifice of a broken spirit. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite or humble heart. Psalms 51:17. And then God would accept his burnt offering of bullocks upon thine altar. 51:19. Psalm 51 was David's request for forgiveness. Psalm 32 was that forgiveness had been granted. Blessed he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity, and whose spirit there is no guile or deception. I acknowledge my sin unto thee, and my iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto the Lord, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. Psalms 32, 1 through 5. David's joy had returned, knowing that his sins had been forgiven, that is, covered at the present, but then totally removed at the time of Christ's death. As Paul writes, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of God. Romans 3:25. Now that David has been forgiven, he petitioned God to help him remain in a right relationship with him. Bow down thine ear, O Lord, hear me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my soul, for I cry unto thee daily. For thou, Lord, art good, and ready to forgive, and plenteous in mercy unto all them that call upon thee. Psalms 86, 1 through 5. Now that David has been reestablished in his right relationship with God, his attention turned to the worship system given from God to Israel. I was glad when they said unto me, Let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem. whither the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, unto the testimony of Israel, to give thanks unto the name of the Lord. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Psalm 122, 1 through 6. Though God had forgiven David of his sins, the consequences of such would come to haunt him. Now therefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me. 2 Samuel 12, 9 and 10. What's that mean? It means that David would suffer similar tragedies within his own household. It came to pass after this that Absalom, a full brother, the son of David, had a half-sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon, the half-brother, the son of David, loved or lusted after her. 2 Samuel 13:1. The half-brother lusted after his half-sister. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. 2 Samuel 13:2. Amnon could not think of a way to win the love of his half-sister, so he asked a friend, Jonadab, his advice, which was to pretend to be sick, so that Tamar would show empathy to him. Lie thee down on thy bed, make thyself sick, and when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come and give me meat. 13, 3 through 5. So he did, and the deception worked. Tamar brought him cakes, but instead of eating, Amnon promptly dismissed the other male servants in the room, and then he took hold of her. Come lie with me, my sister. 2 Samuel 13:11. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. 13:12. The law banned incest, and those who did were to be cut off from their own people. Leviticus 20:17. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her, and lay with her. 13:14. When Absalom found out about it, for Absalom hated his half-brother Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. 13:22. This will not end well. And the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as commanded. And when I say to you, smite Amnon, then kill him. 13:28 and 29. After getting him drunk at a party, on a prearranged signal, the servants of Absalom killed Amnon. An ill-advised sexual encounter caused a murder to be committed, exactly the same as David did. After the murder, Absalom fled to Geshur and was estranged from his father for 3 years, while David mourned Amnon's death. 13:37 through 39. There's a map showing his route from Jerusalem to Geshur in the north. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. 14:23. Though he returned to Jerusalem, David had not yet forgiven Absalom of his sin. So Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem and saw not the king's face. 1428. Finally, after 5 years, David agreed to meet Absalom. And when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. 1433. But David had waited too long. Now Absalom had an unforgiving spirit towards his father. Because his father had shown an unforgiving heart for so long, Absalom conspired to make David pay for the pain of rejection from his father. Over the next 4 years, Absalom gained the support of the people of Israel away from his father, the king. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. 15:6. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you heard the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. 15:10. Of all places, Absalom's coup began in the city where David's reign had begun, Hebron, south of Jerusalem. What would David do as Satan threatened his throne? And there came a messenger to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all his servants that they were with him in Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not escape Absalom. He will bring evil upon us and smite the city with the edge of the sword. 2 Samuel 15:13 and 14. To the right, a map where David fled Jerusalem east into the Transjordan. David fled Jerusalem rather than risk its destruction by Absalom, traveling to the Transjordan east of Jerusalem by crossing the Kidron Valley and the Mount of Olives, the picture at right. And David went up by the ascent of Mount Olivet, and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and the people went up, weeping as they went up. 15:30. David's despair was obvious, and then Absalom came into Jerusalem. 15:37. As David fled, Absalom took control of Jerusalem. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Psalms 3:1. Though David is distraught by the actions of his son, he knows that God is with him. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of my head. Psalms 3:3. David trusts the Lord for deliverance. I laid me down and slept. I awakened, for the Lord sustained me. Psalms 3:5. David knows not to lose precious sleep over his predicament. I will not be afraid of 10,000 of people that have set themselves against me round about. Psalms 3:6. Nor would David fear Absalom's army. Because the Lord had intervened in David's life before to save him, he believes he will do the same again. Arise, O Lord, protect me, O my God, for thou hast smitten all mine enemies upon the cheekbone. Thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. Protection belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessings upon thy people. Psalms 3:7 and 8. Who have said, without tongue will we prevail. Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us? Psalms 12:4. Though Absalom had flattered the Israelites with his lips, his arrogant attitude would not win out. But I have trusted in thy mercy. I will sing unto the Lord, because he hath dealt bountifully with me. Psalms 13:5 and 6. God would protect David. It was his will to do so. Draw me not away with the wicked, and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts. Give them according to their deeds, and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render to them their desert. Psalm 28:3 and 4. Again, David prayed that God will administer justice on those who are perpetrating this evil upon him. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man, my equal, my acquaintance. We took counsel together and walked into the house of God in company. Let death seize upon Absalom, and let him go down quick into hell. Psalms 55:12 through 15. As David fled Jerusalem and Absalom sought his father's throne, it jeopardized the Davidic covenant, the promise of God that a series of kings would be enthroned, leading to the Messiah. Absalom was positioned to be king over the southern kingdom, Judah, and now Saul's grandson, Mephibosheth, whom David treated as a son, attempted to resurrect Saul's dynasty over the northern kingdom. Where is thy master's son? He abideth at Jerusalem. For he said, 2 days shall the house of Israel restore me the kingdom of my father. 16:3. Now David has two adversaries, Absalom and Mephibosheth. And Absalom and all the people of the men of Israel came to Jerusalem. 16:15. A previous friend of David, seeing that he had been deposed, said of the new king, God save the king. 16:16. Absalom asked his adviser what to do, and was told, Go into thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house. 16:21. Which he did, showing utter contempt for his father. Another adviser plotted the death of David. And I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people will flee, and I will smite the king only. 17:2. But David's army was revived with supplies, and was ready to fight Absalom's army. At the last moment, David instructed his soldiers not to kill Absalom. 18:5. So Absalom's army was slain before the soldiers of David, and there was great slaughter that day, 20,000 men. 18:7 and 8. Absalom tried to escape, but his hair became entangled in an oak tree, and despite David's orders, his soldiers killed him. 18:8 through 14. David erected a monument to Absalom in the Kidron Valley that still stands there today. Things had not gone as David would have wanted with Absalom, but it didn't diminish his love for the Lord. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have trusted in the Lord. Psalms 26:1. I waited patiently for the Lord. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit. He hath put a new song in my mouth. 40:2-3. As a snail which melteth, let every one wicked pass away. Psalms 58:7. Thou wilt prolong the king's life, and his years as many generations. 61:6. My soul waiteth thou only upon God. Psalm 62:5. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, and shall trust in him. Psalm 64:10. David had won the battle, but he had lost a son. The king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. The king covered his face and cried with a loud voice, O my son Absalom! O Absalom, my son, my son. 2 Samuel 19:1-4. Joab told David that he believed David would have rather had Absalom lived and David and his army perish. 19:5-6. With his death, the followers of Absalom decided to accept David as their king. 19:14-15. The second conspirator, Mephibosheth, made his case that he had not tried to conspire to raise Saul's kingdom to new life. 19:26-27. So the rebellion ended with David reinstated king over both kingdoms of Israel. The Davidic covenant and David's place in it was again secure. David was never the same after this period of his life, wishing he would have died rather than hearing of the violent deaths of his two sons, Amnon and Absalom, both a consequence of his sin. Then there was a famine in the last days of David, 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, It is for Saul and for his bloody house. 21, verse 1. Israel had made a covenant with the Gibeonites during the time of Joshua. After Joshua defeated Jericho and Ai, the Gibeonites were next in their crosshairs, but they pretended to be non-residents of the land of Canaan and escaped destruction by Joshua and his forces. Though done deceitfully, God recognized Israel's promise of their safety to allow them to become proselytes and to do menial work as they served the nation of Israel. Though the events were not recorded in the Bible, Saul attacked and killed some Gibeonites. It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites. 2 Samuel 21:1. As if David didn't have enough heartache over this last part of his life, God now held Israel responsible for the broken promise between Saul and the Gibeonites. Wherefore David said unto the Gibeonites, What shall I do for you? And wherewith shall I make the atonement that ye may bless the inheritance of the Lord? 2 Samuel 21:3. David asked them what he could do to make things right. They refused monetary payment. We'll have no silver or gold, but they did agree on a premise that had been part of the law but rarely used, an eye for an eye. The Gibeonites asked for 7 men of Saul's bloodline, and David turned over 7 sons and grandsons of Saul for a public execution by hanging. And he delivered them into the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before the Lord. And they fell all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. And he brought up the bones of Saul and Jonathan his son, and they gathered the bones of them that were hanged, and buried them in the country of Benjamin, in the sepulchre of Kish his father. 21:9. All were executed together in the spring of the year 1021 BC, and then buried together, a fitting ending of a curse from God. Moreover, the Philistines had yet war again with Israel, and David went down and his servants with him, and fought against the Philistines, and David waxed faint. 2 Samuel 21:15. Now old and weak, David was nearly killed, so his men vowed that this would never happen again. Thou shalt go no more out with us to battle, that thou quench not the light of Israel. 21:17. You know why David gathered 5 smooth stones when he went to battle against Goliath? Because there were 4 more giants who were eventually killed by David's army. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath and fell by the hand of David when he killed Goliath, and 4 by the hands of his servants. 21:22. All the satanically produced giants. There were giants in the earth in those days, all the way back to Genesis 6:4, who had inhabited the earth from the time of Noah, were now eradicated once and for all. For there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulchre. Destroy them, O God. Let them fall by their own counsels. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee. Psalms 5:9 and 10. Another imprecatory prayer, but the Apostle Paul does use part of it to describe the lying lips of unbelievers during the age of grace. Romans 3:13. I am feeble and sore broken. My heart panteth, my strength faileth me. As for the light of mine eyes, it is also gone from me. Psalms 38:8 and 10. David's health continued to deteriorate, as he is in heart failure and has cataracts and nearly blind. Yea, my own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. Psalm 41:9. Another messianic psalm. As Absalom betrayed David, so will Judas betray Christ. John 13:18. My soul thirsteth for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? Psalm 42:2. David is ready to die and wants to see God face to face. Next time, David's death. We're going to look at 2 Samuel 22 through 24, 1 Chronicles 21 through 29, and that list of Psalms. This is a picture of David's burial place on Mount Zion in Jerusalem.